Agent Romanoff. You miss me?
Oh yeah, Charles, we got ourselves an X-Men fan.
Captain.
Your Highness.
Captain, big fan, Spider-Man. Hey everyone.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Film Artsy. I'm your guy, Trevor Baker, and today we got some brand new plot leaks for the Spider-Man No Way Home film that we're supposed to get at the end of this year. Now, I know you feel like, hey, didn't we just do a video on that? Well, since that video, we have gotten more plot leaks and more things to talk about. And what's so juicy about this one and why you want to stay is it seems that we actually have 2 complete acts fleshed out and stated that the person who did this actually worked on the project. Whether you believe that or not, we have a very coherent first act, a very coherent second act, and we have a fuzzy third act that's worth noting. So that's what we're going to dissect today. So let's get started. Now, it needs to be stated that the person claiming that they have the insider information about this plot leak says they worked on the project very early on before some of the reshoots and reworkings had happened. This is a nice way to say that maybe what I saw was true, maybe not. And there's no way to really credit whether this person is telling the truth or not. All that being said, a lot of the things stated in this plot leak are very similar to things that have been kind of dripping out as we get closer to the movie. I know that fanfics can be made and a lot of this can be wrong. Trust me, I was in for the WandaVision wrong theories every week. That being said, there is some very interesting, noteworthy things that I think are very valid and could possibly be true. And also, if they're true, it would be a freaking awesome movie. I mean, this is the kind of movie we want to see, and this is what we're hoping for. So, it kicks off right after the events of Far From Home, where James Jonas Jameson's like, yo, Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and he killed Mysterio. And Spider-Man's like, what? Because you just feel like you finally completed your mission, you're like in love with MJ, everything's happy, and then you're like, wow, my identity and everything that I have done is ruined. My life is over. And that's really how the movie kicks off, is the police are coming after Spider-Man. Now, I don't know how that chase would go, because I feel like a web slingers would be pretty hard to get a hold of, but apparently they corner him on the Statue of Liberty, which we'll see about that. I don't know why he would have gone there, but he's, cornered on the Statue of Liberty. He web slings on some helicopters, which is very Spider-Man-esque, and goes into hiding. But what's critical about this is it's not like you just take off the mask and hide in plain sight. No, no, no. Peter Parker is indeed Spider-Man, or at least that's what everyone's been told. So he has to hide as well, which means he has no real life. This leads to actually a court case taking place where we get Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, coming into the scene. I'm still skeptical that they're going to throw Daredevil into this storyline, because it's like, if we're going to have the Sinister Six and multiple Spider-Mans and Kristen Dunst and Emma Stone and all these things going on, the last thing I'm like, oh, and Daredevil, by the way. So we'll see if that's true, but I definitely think a court case makes sense. And apparently Matt Murdock, Daredevil, is appealing to the court that not to justify that Spider-Man is good, because apparently that's a little bit harder to prove, but that Peter Parker is in no way Spider-Man. Which, all things considered, how do you prove that? It's not like Tobey Maguire where he can shoot webs on his wrist. This is just some kid. So what are you going to do, throw him off a building and see if he dies? That's not how it's going to work. So I think the case is pretty valid, and there's a lot of people coming out saying there's no way that Peter Parker could be Spider-Man. That being said, Peter Parker has to still go into hiding. There's a lot of people that are angry at him, even though there's a little sect of people who are like, no, Peter Parker's good. There's a lot of people who are like, Peter Parker is not good. So Doctor Strange takes him, MJ and Ned, to his sanctum, sacred sanctum, secret sanctum of sanctumness, sanctum. Doctor Strange brings his sanctum to keep them safe for the time being while all this court stuff's getting figured out. But Doctor Strange seems pretty distracted. And why? Well, let's think about it. This is a series that just came out, WandaVision. I do believe what Wanda was doing, chaos magic, is breaking the dimensional barriers, and this seems to be true because Doctor Strange is kind of gathering these other dimensional beings. So we got some conflicting leaks here. I've heard it from this one individual that claims he worked in a movie that who Tom Holland runs into and Doctor Strange's sanctum is just Doc Ock and Electro. Can make sense, or kind of makes sense in my mind, is that Doc Ock and Electro could seem to become good, especially Doc Ock, based off the way that they fell in their other films. But on the other side, there's another narrative out there that it's not only Doc Ock and Electro, it's also Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, and that the way that they get out in that situation is Willem Dafoe tricks Tom Holland into believing that there's a bad Spider-Man in their dimension, and they have to go stop him. Whatever the case, there seems to be the common thread, which is what I bring to you, is that Tom Holland done mess up again. He done mess up, he trusts people too much, kid is just an optimistic son of a gun, and lets him out. And that does not go well. They escape, and the big Sinister Six baddie plan is apparently to get a hold of interdimensional technology, whether it's using arc reactor, whether that's experimental technology from Oscorp in the MCU. Either way, they're like, we are going to get our hands on something that can help us travel the multiverse to end Spider-Man's reign. Now, they seem obviously very focused on Spider-Man, since that's the person that keeps stopping him. But anyways, villains getting a hold of interdimensional technology, not a good thing. Should not be happening. You cannot let that happen. So that is basically the first act, right? We got Spider-Man Court in the Sanctum, Sinister Six are escaped, and that leads us to the next point.
Before we continue our video, I just want to let you guys know that we have a really cool Instagram that updates on a regular basis. So if you like all things Marvel, this is the Instagram for you. So go follow that filmartsy Instagram right now. You won't regret it, I promise you. Seriously, open Instagram right now and click that follow button. Now back to the video.
And that leads us to the next point. Spider-Man goes after those who have escaped, the Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Electro, only to be confronted by Rhino. And Rhino lays into Spider-Man, like basically beats him up real good, and before a finishing blow, we have a manhole coming out of nowhere, which I don't know about this, but if you know that the favorite weapon of the Amazing Spider-Man is clearly the manhole. So Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man shows up and helps Spider-Man defeat Rhino. This is where we have the first pairing of two new Spider-Mans, is apparently right in the second act. And they're trying to figure out where Electro, Doc Ock, and Green Goblin could have gone, and what is their plan in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. After thinking about it, they realize that there's some differences between their timelines. You know, that Emma Stone's character and Uncle Ben isn't really Tom Holland's situation with Ned and MJ, but there is one thing that they do realize, is that Tony Stark is not in the dimension of Andrew Garfield's dimension. And Oscorp is the big deal, and MJ tells Tom Holland Spider-Man, she's like, oh, Oscorp just bought the new Stark building. So Oscorp is up and coming in the current MCU. Not only is Oscorp up and coming, but they have arc technology, and that's where they think they're going, is for them to get a hold of arc reactor to do some multi-dimensional bad business. Now, this is very much like high-level stuff, but this is definitely seems like if you were traveling multidimensionally, the villains would say, how do we use that to our advantage? Another throwdown happens at the arc reactor making that they're doing at Oscorp, where Doc Ock is trying to put it together so they can travel multiple dimensions, and it doesn't work. And the Spider-Man's kind of fight, but it doesn't go very well, and the villains once again escape with the arc reactor technology, and they realize, uh-oh, the arc reactor apparently needs a better conductor. Oh, the Statue of Liberty is apparently the answer to that. I, once again, am skeptical that it will be the Statue of Liberty, but they have determined that the best place for this interdimensional travel machine to work is Statue of Liberty. Boy, no one will notice the Octopus Man, a dude who's blue, and a Green Goblin setting up shop there. But that is what we're being told. Upon this, the Spider-Mans realize that they might be a little bit outmatched, and they don't know much about some of these villains, like Alfred Molina's Doc Ock and Green Goblin, William Dafoe's version. So they apparently cross dimensions and are met with an older, settled down Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, married to MJ with a kid, who's willing to help them take down these villains one last time. I kind of like this because it's not just like a young Tobey Maguire, it's one who's seen some stuff, who's lived a life out in his universe, and he's going to put on the suit one last time to take on some of his oldest foes. That's kind of Act 2. So we got the first one with the court and the Sanctum and the Sinister Six escape. We got the battle with Rhino, where Andrew Garfield and Tom meet up, and then they fight once again with the Sinister Six at wherever the arc reactor is at Oscorp. And then we got the final act that they recruit Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man to take on the Sinister Six at the Statue of Liberty. This is where things get a little fuzzy. I had to dig pretty deep to discover what this third act might look like. Dafoe realizes that the only way to open two-way portals is by getting a big enough conductor, combining Stark power core with the Oscorp technology that they got. Sinister Six, minus Green Goblin, fight Spider-Man, all the Spider-Men, at the Statue of Liberty. Osborn's Green Goblin plans on using open portals back to their worlds and trap the Spider-Man here or eliminate them completely. During this battle, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man gives his life to save the younger Spider-Mans and ends up dying in battle. At the very end, the Green Goblin shows up with the device and Ned. The device is activated, but they manage to stop him and protect Ed in a 2v1 fight against the Green Goblin. But as a last-ditch effort, the Green Goblin throws a wayward pumpkin bomb and ends up killing Ned. This enrages Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and he nearly kills the Goblin, but Andrew Garfield stops him from becoming a villain like them. The Sinister Six get locked back up in Strange's sanctum. Tom and Andrew Garfield attend Toby's funeral in the Raimiverse and seemingly part ways. At the end of this movie, Tom is successfully defended from the murder charges of Mysterio by Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, but apparently his secret identity is still compromised. Tom shows up to Ned's grave and talks about how he feels responsible for his death. Once again, Andrew Garfield shows back up and gives him the speech that we all know that Tom Holland hasn't gotten yet, the responsibility talk that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire received from their Uncle Ben, that with great power comes great responsibility. And Ned, like Uncle Ben, like many others in the Spider-Man universe, believed that Tom still needs to be our hero despite the cost it does have on those around him. Anywho, thank you so much for watching, and if you've heard other leaks, please drop down in the comments below about what you've heard and what you think might be happening. Are you excited about this 3-act that I just talked about? Does this seem like a Spider-Man movie you would want to watch? Because I sure feel like I want to watch it. All that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, hit that bell. It really helps us here. We're trying to give you guys content on the daily, and let us know what you would like to see from us. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.